All right. So we are going to talk about your quantum soul and your galactic heritage today.
Love that.
And this is a topic that has really put me on in a state of joy. So the intention of this reading today that I set before the reading was to help you connect to your multidimensional self that is much, much bigger than what you ever could imagine, right? And some of it you may physically or mentally know, but your soul actually knows all of this already. So it is to bridge that gap between what your soul already knows about you as a beautiful energy, right? And what we as a human here on Earth right now is comprehending and connecting with. Because our soul is really, vibration, it's frequency, that's how we kind of can characterize a soul's qualities or yeah. And your aura, your essence, if we call it that, have two colors in it. The center of your aura is turquoise.
Mm-hmm.
Turquoise color is a mix between blue and green. And when somebody has a center of turquoise, it means that you are a truth seeker. You are a soul that sees the good in everyone. And you're also, the turquoise color is connected to the higher heart.
Mm-hmm.
So the cosmic heart, basically, which is also associated with the Venus, is connected to the higher heart as well, as far as the chakra system goes. But
Cool.
we're talking about, characteristics of your soul, of your essence, right? And with this connection to the higher heart type of energy, you are also someone who, you are a soul that is really here to speak from the heart. Because we draw this, connection to this life also, right? It's what you bring in as a soul wherever you go. Right?
Yeah.
So that's there's much to say about each of these colors in terms of soul essence, but I'm giving you the highlights, right? I will send you a follow-up in an email with a bunch of links and things like that. You can do your own research once you,
Cool.
or whatever you're curious about. The second color, it's like an outer ring of purple in your
I knew
soul.
you were going to say that. And I'm so affirming that you got exactly what I feel is true.
Oh, that's so good. And purple actually is also a color of, transcendence in a way. Purple is often the color of ascension or transcendence or any of those words. But what it really is, it's the one of the highest frequencies on Earth, right? On Earth, but also in the universe. And this outer layer of purple is associated with someone, a soul that is here to raise the frequency of the planet,
Mm-hmm.
to help others to align with their higher selves. So and with that comes characteristics that has to do with source creativity, really. So souls with this essence are very artistic. spiritual. And it's connected, purple is connected to the crown chakra. So it is this, you know, natural connection with, it's your soul essence is really connected to what you naturally are good at in the physical world as well. 20, Haumea was conjunct the new moon in Libra at 23 degrees. So that's just one indicator that this planet, dwarf planet, has a significance for the times we're living in, because you can imagine, like, if you have an elliptical orbit, it's not that often it comes around. And not only that, Haumea was discovered not as recent as 2004. I think it was first, photographed in 2003, but it got its, official kind of discovery. So it's why I'm bringing this up is because I received information that your soul originated in that with Haumea. Because, and I doused on this multiple times, and you're associated with this energy. Cool. And I found it interesting too that it really was like in 2020, it was conjunct a new moon, and it's in your 10th house. It's like, duh. Right? And the thing is also that Venus in 2020 at this new moon, Venus was conjunct your natal Haumea at that time.
Oh.
So, you can't make this up, right? So because I was really curious, like, how does that relate to your chart? And I found those two links, right? And this is the constellation of Lepus, and specifically the star Nihal here is where you incarnated in your first experience as a soul, if you will, because once we originate and then we decide we want to have some experiences, right? Here's where you came. And how I came to that is your Neptune, which is at your AC, right? Your ascendant. Nihal is opposite that. So it has to do with your, I would say, the relationship axis, right? The AC-DC is the relationship axis. And it's also indicated in your chart as one of the first conjunct or opposite alignments to the outer planets, which is Pluto, Neptune, or Uranus. This one happens to be aligned to your Neptune. And that's what indicates to me that that's where your first soul experiences were. And when you look at your galactic chart later, also, you can see that Lepus, and specifically the star Nihal, which is at the bottom there, is also linked to your moon and your north node and south node as well. So when we look at the galactic chart, it's not only kind of, okay, what's aligned to one planet, it's the whole pattern within the chart that we look at, and Nihal is coming up multiple times. So that's also putting a lot of emphasis to that. And I asked also, of course, I've doused all of this to confirm, like, yes, no, and so on. And I asked, like, what did she incarnate there? And yes, you did incarnate there, but it wasn't a parallel life. So a parallel life, you can argue what that is, but it's like out in the stars in our conscious subconscious world, right? There is no time, as we talked about. So it's associated with a parallel life of yours. But I asked, like, can I relate this to some sort of earthly time frame? And what came up was that this was an incarnation in parallel life in the time frame of ancient Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
So since I didn't dig in so much in your earthly lives, it might be that you have, you know, a life on earth at that time in ancient Egypt, but who knows?
That's
Now,
what this is. I don't know if you
oh
can see
yeah,
this
look there.
tiny screen now.
See?
Like, yep, I've been there. In the spirit realms.
Yeah, you had a humanoid body type in Nihal at that time. And I asked also, what was her role? Like, what were you there for? Like, because I can ask about archetypal energy. And the archetypal energy that came out was the creator, the artist, which means that it leads me to, you know, if you had your origin in Haumea, you came to Nihal to experience something about like your creative forces, if you will. So here, down here is Nihal. This is the constellation, call it the hare. Lepus is called the hare because of this.
Oh.
The Nihal is down here. Now,
yeah.
Auriga Capella is up here. So you have, you traveled to Capella and incarnated there. Between Nihal and Capella is Orion.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that because there's some dynamic with Orion constellation in your chart that is very important. It has to do with this T-square in your chart. Cool. But let's talk about the Capella incarnation here. And what I found out regarding that is, like, we can stop the share. So you incarnated there. And as I said earlier, this alignment is linked to your moon, your north node and south node, and it's squaring Saturn. Auriga Capella is a place that is associated with energy that eventually became the Mayans and the Aztecs. Mm-hmm. So many people with those alignments have this ancient, you know, wisdom that became a large colony, if you will, of souls or soul group, ancient back when they incarnated on Earth, came with that energy that became the Mayans and the Aztecs. So that's kind of how you can relate to this type of energy that, and why, how do we know like what these characteristics are? Part of it has been uncovered in past life regressions when people with certain alignments have been regressed back to and talking about lives at these stars. So that's how the links are being made many times. And you can see patterns, right? And glean information from thousands of regressions. And this was one of the ways that the founder of this practitioner course and all of that, that's how she kind of built up this body of knowledge. And you know, there's many more that have contributed to kind of these kind of conclusions. But I just, in case you're curious.
Yeah, that's cool.
And in Auriga Capella, you had you incarnated there. You had you were of service to others. So you were, you know, and the archetypal energy that you were brought there to either learn from or contribute with. But if you're service to others, you were there to kind of serve others, right? So you were kind of the rebel in this environment. The rebel in the sense that your alignment to Auriga Capella is through your Venus. So there was something about there. I got the download of that. You were kind of more associated with innovation. when it comes to, success, when it comes to either being a role model for relationships, or being a role model for communication when it comes to, going back to your essence of being an embodiment of love, Haumea, creativity, beauty, all of that, right? Because each incarnation, I believe, we bring that kind of essence with us, right?
Absolutely.
So you were there to be showing these who became the Mayans and Aztecs they carry also that essence in terms of how to, and you might have been one of the leaders and innovators in that soul group to bring beauty back to ourselves. And that makes total sense to me, like looking at, if you remember that image of the Haumea woman, right? It's all about beauty. It's all about relationships and being in right relationships with the earth, with ourselves, with our community. Do you know anything about Orion as a constellation?
Not really.
Orion is a constellation where there was really highly advanced souls. There's immense wisdom from Orion in soul groups that have incarnated there. However, after in Orion was where polarity was, I wouldn't say introduced, but it became one of the first places where masculine and feminine consciousness eventually, it ended in terms of integration of masculine and feminine energy, but there were eons or thousands of years where there were actually wars where soul groups on Orion were, there is polarity out in the universe as well, and Orion is associated with one of those places.
Okay.
Polarity wars, basically, and
wow.
So you have a significant amount of alignments to Orion in your medium to recent soul history, which means what's telling me that you have been part of these polarity wars or polarity and its multiple lives. And it can be also that you were there to help balance that polarity with all the beauty and love. Like you've had one life came out here that has some dynamic that I'm going to share with you, but this feminine aspect, masculine aspect, and the feminine aspect, what's more emotional, spiritual, and psychic, which I link you to.
Yeah.
So when you were there, it ended up as an experience as a soul, often that the feminine had to suppress their own purpose for the benefits of the whole. In context of these wars, because there were a lot of wars between the constellation of Lyra and Orion, and there's a lot of migration between those two and to the Pleiades, and like there's a whole story about that. Your chart is indicating that you have been part of that, and one of the lives that stands out is an opposite alignment to Rigel, Orion. And when you look at your chart, you can see Orion in many places. So this can be also that you have visited and being, involved in interactions and dynamic with it. It doesn't necessarily be that you incarnated there. It can be as, as a soul, you visit or partake in certain dynamics. But this alignment comes up because it's a soul memory.
Yeah.
from this dynamic on in your soul. And what comes to me is also that there is a dynamic with Orion, with your moon. Mm-hmm. Specifically, there are alignments with your moon. You have this, alignment that you're still working on this in this life through your north node and south node. That means that there is, soul memories that we are still working on comes out in our incarnated lives, right? So definitely link there. And it's also conjunct your Venus. So that leads me to believe that dynamic, you may have been either voluntarily traveled, but you may also have been taken from Capella. Who knows, right? Mm-hmm. as a enslaved to become a wife of somebody that was not so good, right? Mm-hmm. But that's as far as I got. But it came out so strong, so it likely is like, this needs to be shared. And yeah. Now, to continue that story, you were rescued. I didn't go further in terms of, what happened and so on. There's much to uncover there, I believe. But after this experience, because I wanted to know, where did you go next?
Yeah.
You incarnated on Earth. After this experience. Because your first incarnation ever on Earth was in Lemuria. And I asked specifically, where did she go after this experience on Orion? And it came out as Earth. And then I went further, like location, all of that, and time frame. And the Lemuria time frame came up.
One thing that keeps coming up to tell you, because I didn't know anything about the Lepus constellation. Mm-hmm. Lepus?
Yeah, Lepus.
And you said it looks like a hare. It's a rabbit.
Yeah. See that?
And when I was a little girl, that was the only thing I've ever collected in my whole life, besides crystals and things now.
Really?
Were little bunny, like little figurines. I had them all on my windowsill. Like I would just collect these little rabbits. My parents actually bought me rabbit for my Easter present one year. 2 years in a row, I think I got a bunny as a present for Easter. And that was like pre-grade school. So like I was maybe 4 and 5 years old when I got those rabbits. Aww. And my grandma, my like adopted grandma, who was just like the neighborhood grandma a couple of doors down, fed us rabbit stew one day. And I freaked out. I was like,
not my rabbit.
I'm not eating bunny rabbits.
Oh my
But I have this, that's like strong. And I've always wondered about that as like an animal spirit or like, where did that come from? I have no idea. And then, I always gravitated towards those little
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Pretty cool.
Symbolism is showing up, right?
It usually does. I love those confirmations. I heard you say, I've circled, the big one that's connected to Venus is to bring beauty back to ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's connected to my moon and my north and south node, square Saturn. So there's a lot of learning there, bringing that wisdom around that to this. And then the original, like the first theme, I think you said, was this Haumea connection is like the origin is that. I'm definitely excited to research the Hawaiian goddess. I'm so glad I've been to Hawaii a couple times. It makes me want to go back right away, because that
so
fertility,
you
that abundance, that like life is just viewing from everywhere, and it's so rich and beautiful. And the main like message I get from that is this harmony of life through the cycles, through the like overarching picture of oneness is everywhere, and then this other theme of the duality of the masculine and feminine. But I mean, I've always felt so feminine. Like, I don't know if I've even ever been a man, ever. Like, enslaved by a man, sure, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Masculine energy, stealing my feminine. Okay, yep, been there, tried that. And also came in with this really strong, like, rescuer, but wanting to be rescued energy in this lifetime, very much. And I think that's what I've had to transform, that damsel in distress, like, rescue me, evolving into this queen goddess energy of my true feminine. That is like, I am the nourisher and caregiver. And does that sound like the three themes?
Absolutely. But I truly enjoyed looking into this for you, because it's amazing what we can uncover about our soul. And it's just like, I'm of the type, I just keep asking questions, right? I just like, I have to stop now.
Well, I could say this was empowering in so many ways. It's definitely affirming about my path, but it also gave me an inkling of my ability to access this information.
Yeah, absolutely. So, because you can.